Hello everyone, we are Team India and my name is Lengen.
Hi everyone, I'm Krisa.
Hi everyone, I'm Kamal.
Hello everyone, my name is Howling.
Hi everyone, I'm Tanya.
Hi everyone, I'm Heath.
And welcome to our presentation on the complex and evolving relationship between China and India, two of the world's most populous nations. Today, we will explore this relationship through many lenses, but our presentation will be mostly based on political and economical views, focusing on both the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead. Historically, the two countries had a rich history of interactions from ancient trade to modern diplomatic history. The relationship is always characterized by significant tension, such as border disputes and strategic competition. As these countries grow on global stage, the understanding of the dynamic will not just be important to regional stability in Asia, but also to the rest of the international community. Thus, in the next couple of minutes, we will take a look at the history of this relationship, analyze the current political condition, look at the economic ties, and identify possible areas of cooperation. So let's get on it. Before we talk about the main topic, let me talk a little bit about the historical background between India and China. So the relationship between India and China, rooted in thousands of years of trade, cultural exchange, and philosophical interaction, has yet to endure the further thrust of the modern age with some important challenges. For instance, the Sino-Indian War of 1962, which erupted with border problems, especially concerning the areas of Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh. Hereafter was the important 1993 agreement on maintaining peace and tranquility along the lines of actual control that focused primarily on managing border tensions. This opened more channels for continuing discussion on other issues. When the century was reversed, trade relations grew between the two countries, demonstrating a growing need for interdependence in their economics. Today, both countries are fully in competition for the spheres of the influence in South Asia and further afield in the Indo-Pacific region, despite centuries of historical challenges toward the other for economic cooperation. So these were some of the historical background. I talked about India and China. Now I'm going to pass it to my friend Krisha, who's going to talk about the economic relationship between these countries. So here I pass it to Krisha.
India and China have moved together in terms of trade flows over the last several decades. Although even then, there is a continuous imbalance in these trade relations since imports from China into India far outnumber exports. There are also national security concerns arising from this very heavy reliance on Chinese goods, especially in critical areas such as electronics and medications. All these misgivings notwithstanding, China continues to be one of the India's largest trading partners, offering a plethora of investment and infrastructure from development opportunities, especially under the China's BRI. Economic relationship between India and China has been a fact for many years regarding India's economy, especially with China. By 2011 to 2012, India was already considered China's biggest trading partner because from 2016 to 2023, the two nations increased the trade by 66.38%, which means they traded much more each year. In 2023, total trade would reach to USD 115.82 billion. However, it recorded a decrease of 1.66% compared to previous the year. This relationship has another fact, which is the trade deficit and that India has with China. The trade deficit of India with China in 2023 was worth USD 83.36 billion, which means the India buys much more from China than it sells to them. However, this decrease in the imports from China by India does not mean that the imports have increased, as exports have also increased from this and by 7.13%, which is a positive sign. The reason for this trade deficit include the fact that India majorly exports iron ore and castor oil in their raw forms. China exports finished goods such as machinery and electronics to India. India has had problems in entering the markets of China to sell some agricultural products and medications as well. So investment is something different, truly different when it comes to India and China. there have not been trended similar trends when it comes to investment between both countries, though the trade has grown very big. In 2021, Chinese investment in India dropped off a cliff, having been reduced to only 63.18 million after the earlier booms. It was also noted that Indian investment in China dropped to indicate that both countries must meet some challenges in terms of the investment within the counterpart. India and China have their dialogue mechanisms that facilitate the confronting and enhancing their mutual economic relationship. Some of these dialogue mechanisms include groups like a Joint Group on Economic Relations and Strategic Economic Dialogue aimed at economic cooperation and other forms of collusion. Thank you, and I'm passing it forward to Kamal now.
The both countries will have the opportunity to brainstorm on a various issues related to a trade and investment by holding these meetings with limited scales and coverage. These Indian banks such as SVI and ICICI operate mainly in Shanghai and other cities in China. In addition, some of the Chinese banks, such as Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, have opened branches in India, which would have reflected some two-way approach. Both countries are also a member of other multilateral forums like Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the New Development Bank and promote regional cooperation. This will also brings India and China into a cultural exchange. The audio visual co-production agreement whereby successful Indian films are screened on in China is one of the bridge further strengthening the two countries. Finally, a good number of both Indian and Chinese companies have their operations in each other's country. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Indian business are scattered across sectors such as medical and ITI in China, while over 100 Chinese companies are doing business domestically, mostly within the machinery and electronic lines. This brings us to the conclusion that the economic relationship between India and China is indeed wide and complex. Despite the increasing trade, however, challenging such as widening trade defect and barrier to investment still need to be tackled. In a sense, the two countries will need continuing dialogue and cooperation to solve this problem. Now I'm passing to the Hayon who will elaborate the political relationship between India and China.
Hello, I'm Howling. Right now I'm talking about the political relationship between India and China. China relationship with India has been quite stormy, especially because much of it stands on historical grudge. The Sino-Indian War of 1962 was the crucial point during which a boundary disputes was crystallized and hostilities unrolled in Ashkachin and Arunachal Pradesh. This war left behind a legacy of bitterness that was born out of military engagement and which today inspires a great deal of mistrust in the relationship. Since the Indo-China War of 1962, both have different perceptions about borders, leading to innumerable standoff and military incidents in which armed skirmish has also occurred. Much of the conflict has played in the region of Ladakh, which is where both sides are continually facing off against each other. In June 2020, for instance, 20 Indian soldiers and 4 Chinese soldiers died in a fire crash in Goan Valley, and this would be the first such conflict to report deaths in decades and creates a virtual outburst in India. Indeed, all the historical complaints have their roots in the competition between the two states over various strategies. The much ballyhooed Belt and Road Initiative of China, which has great ambition to extend China influence across Asia, is treated by India as an affront to its traditional surface of influence. Similarly, India continuing strength with the United States and other Western countries is seen as a threat by China, complicating the existing states of relations. It may finally lead to an understanding of the current trend in China-India relations against this backdrop of historical conflicts and strategic rivalry. Now I'm going to pass the presentation to Tanya.
Hi, so now I'm going to talk about strategic competition and economic interdependence. Strategic rivalry prevails between China and India beyond borders. It extends much further regarding their broader geopolitical projections. They both eye the regional leadership, thus fueling the rivalry among them, which reverberates in their foreign policies. Military buildup or infrastructure development along the border or merely the context of fostering diplomatic ties signifies the epitome of competition among various domains. While the two countries continue brokering conflict, the real fact contradicts this by the overwhelming economic interdependency between them. Happily, numbers in trade between nations have reached phenomenal figures, thereby transforming China into one of the trading behemoths for India. Nonetheless, this concern often gets eclipsed by security issues. For instance, shortly after the 2020 clashes, India executed a rather long ban on many Chinese apps while stopping Chinese investments from entering their economy in such a manner that signals increasing nationalism and security fears. The interdependence rivalry dilemma presents quite a complicated landscape for both parties. Economic benefits should ensure that both countries work together. However, incidents along the border explode into some very serious sporting calls for boycotts. The situation remains delicate in the face of political, economic, and security dilemmas both nations counter. The Sino Indian frame is a historical grievance turned strategic competition with continuing economic interdependence. These remain vital dynamics for developing an analytic framework in judging the future course of the relationship. The more they dialogue and negotiate, the greater the potential for conflict, cooperation in resolution. And now we're heading towards conclusion.
Hey, my name is Heath. Uh, shit.
Hey guys, coming to the conclusion, the relationship between China and India is multifaceted and deeply influenced by both historical context and contemporary dynamics. Border details like the Himalayas have proved to be a geopolitical barricade, showing years of unwillingness to use strategies to develop diplomatic willingness and to put up an open challenge. They have become tensors to remind us of the fine balance that the states require to maintain peace and stability in their territories. Economically, both nations are the fastest growing economies of the world, with bilateral trade intent pointing to interdependence. Of course, there are political differences between two, but it is reality that both have relatively well linked economies, which encourage their development and innovation. Those living could never be about competition. Infrastructures, technology, as well as sustainability will always promote cooperation cooperation, and challenges. Politically speaking, China and India are also two of these important countries being part of the International Globalized Forum under BRICS and G20. Cooperation between them would therefore be regarded as critical in addressing some of the key global challenges such as climate change, security, and economic inequality, regarding which both could leverage their stance vis-a-vis the so-called development and developing worlds. The future, therefore, lies in talk and cooperation as far as bilateral relations are concerned, because both nations have much to prosper through their mutual relationships that respects each other and has common objectives. China and India can build bridges of trust and mutual benefit around areas of common interests such as cultural exchanges and joint initiatives in science and technology. Essentially, the relationship between China and India is dynamic competition, collaboration, interplay, building a future towards peace, stability, and prosperity for both nations, and the region requires a forward looking approach to navigating the complex landscape they find themselves in. As both major countries continue to evolve in today's world, the important factor will be in managing their differences and availing of common opportunities with each other for a shape that will benefit itself and the world and whole world at large in the future. Thank you for listening and watching our video. It was part of the course called 610, class number NBA.
All right. Thank you, Heath. That was a wonderful conclusion from your end. And thank you all again for listening to our video and watching it until the end. Thank you.